Order in court. We have a flashlight.
Nice.
I just want to get started because we have a village board meeting in Saturday. Everybody's welcome to go to it if you want. But the whole idea here is just to have a workshop, kind of put our minds together, see if there's any way we can work together, if there are any ideas that come out of the audience, or I don't know. But the idea is just to have a conversation and see what comes out of it. And I wouldn't expect that we're going to have a plan tonight, but we'll have ideas that come out, and we'll see where areas of interest might be found. There is a sign-up sheet over there, so if anybody feels like it would be nice to have you sign up, just so we know what kind of support we have for this. If we ever bring anything together, it shows that there's a community that's interested in it. This building was built around 1910 by the Tracy family, and it was given to the village of Chatham as their center of government, and it was actually designed by Horace Peasley, who went on to become quite a famous architect. Steve, correct me if I'm doing okay so far. But he was kind of a local person who went on to build great buildings, like in the War Memorial in Washington, and he designed the mall. There's a lot of history here that we can tie into. It's not just local, but it's regional and national. So there's tremendous value in this building and preserving it, and that's one of our main interests in our efforts. There has been a group called named the Friends of the Tracy, and that has been organizing, and they are looking for a 501c3 status. John Howe, Steve Oberon, Mike Blazel are on that committee, and through Steve's efforts, this building is now on the National Historic Register. So some really important steps have been taken toward the preservation, and we want to fix the roof, fix the drainage, and fix the windows, and kind of restore it and preserve what we have. And we've also hired an architect, Jack Waite, J.W. Waite and Associates, a professional, highly respected architectural firm specializing in historic buildings. And we've also hired a grant writer, a professional grant writer, to help us go after monies for the preservation of this building. So we're in the infancy of that whole project. I can see this would take years to come to fruition in whatever shape or form it's going to be. Part of the idea of working together here is to see if there are areas where we can come together, and if we can find ways where we can work together, that will determine the outcome of what we're looking to do with this building. What are we going to use it for? How big is it going to be? Are we going to put an addition on? Are there going to be additional offices in there? Bathrooms, fire escape, elevator. So it's kind of big, but this kind of input will help us to come to some kind of conclusion. So I just want to stop talking now.
Tom, can I introduce Carl?
Absolutely.
You got it. Carl is with the Department of State, and when I called his office, it was also known as the Local Government Efficiency Project. Is that correct? So maybe we can start with Carl.
Absolutely.
To see the programs that the state might be able to help us with and give us some guidance.
Actually, there's several programs some of which I'm not familiar with, that could offer some assistance for both preserving the historical aspect and also possibly sharing space here at the memorial. Most of it's run through the consolidated funding application, which will be opening up here, I believe, in a month, give or take a little bit. Last year's application is online now. If anyone would like to take a look at it, your grant writer can start filling in some of the information. What happens is with the CFA process is that filters out what the village and town would ultimately be eligible for. And then the application will go through once it's completed. And the announcement for the awardees is usually made November and December timeframe. Through our program, we have our entire program for the LGE program, or local government efficiency, is we have about $4 million available. It's a competitive process through the CFA application. There are many other programs that are also in that process that also have there will be scheduled meetings upcoming that will discuss this in more depth. We have them across the state. In this area, typically we'll have one in Albany, and then somewhere else we've had one at Columbia Green Community College in the past, Adirondack Community College, as well as other locations. What you may want to do is keep an eye on the REDC, or Regional Economic Development Council website, for announcements of where these meetings are going to be, as well as the application for the CFA.
What would a town the size of Chatham, village, know what could we expect from the state? I mean, we're not talking about $4 million, but we're talking about
Well, it would depend on how much this project would cost. It's a bit for, you mentioned before that possibly doing a study to see basically what was needed. For a study to develop a 50-50 match for state funds and local funds. And you'd be eligible with two municipalities, the town and the village. You'd be eligible for a review of $25,000 and $12,500 per municipality. So $25,000 total.
for feasibility.
For a feasibility study. Up to that amount. And then whatever the project came out to be, the state would pay up to $25,000 or 50% of the cost of the eligible cost.
So that's something that the project.
That's something that you recommend for the platform.
No,
The study.
Feasibility study, you got it.
You'd have to talk to them whether they were, if they do feasibility studies or not. You compare what they're out to bid, the feasibility study part of it, and then have your work in conjunction with them. It would be up to the village and town.
The 12,000 that we would split each share, is that matching funds also, or is that?
Yeah, it would be 50-50 match. And however the village and town wants to divvy it up on their half of it, it's up to the town and village to decide that. And it is a reimbursement grant, so there's a paper that could be submitted.
That shouldn't be spent.
I spoke with Jason Short today,
Yes.
because Jason was the attorney that found the original deed and determined who actually owned the building. was there anything in that deed that would prohibit the village granting the town some stakeholder ownership in the building if the town were to go forward? And speaking for myself, and I think for board members, I think the town would want, if the feasibility study, if we started to go down the road, but I want to bring it up now, so the town would want to have ownership and not just be a tenant. Right now, we're a tenant.
Correct.
So I want to make that clear.
Yeah, I would think if you're going to invest $1 million, you want to have some ownership.
Well, I was concerned with Jason, asking Jason, did he see any roadblocks in achieving that? He did not.
No, I mean, I looked at the deed with Jason way back, and the deed doesn't say anything about that. The deed, the only thing that's unusual about the deed is that it sort of helps to set up this organization, this foundation that is supposed to help with the operations of the building. But aside from that, there's nothing else. There's nothing else in there that's unusual.
Speaking for my own thoughts in preserving a building like this, I mean, I have my own personal appreciation for history and architecture, and I think it's very important that the village move ahead with this project of preservation. Speaking from the town, we're very comfortable where we are. However, long term, I think that's what we should consider. The state wants municipalities to consolidate. Why? Because it is efficient. It is saving taxpayers money. And that's where I'm coming from. It would also benefit, I think, Main Street, the economics of the village. I think it would be more convenient for people. If they're going to Price Chopper, they're coming to Main Street, they're going to the bank, stop at the town hall. Here, a main center. And people that I've known, they take village and the town, and they don't know the difference. When they talk about Chatham, they're talking about Main Street, conceptually. So we know what the difference is, but you know, many people don't.
Well, it's easy to mix the two.
Right.
Yeah, I think customer service could be improved. I'm leery about having to raise village tax higher to do something like this. So that would be my concern, is that we don't increase the tax liability for village residents who are also town residents. And over the Ghent side, I don't want their taxes, the village part of the Ghent town, the Ghent residents of the village of Chatham, I don't want their taxes to go up either. And they're not really part of this project.
Right.
Their Ghent government is not part of this project. So that's my concern, is that we would not want taxes to go up because of this. So I think we need to look at what are we looking to do and how are we going to get there. And I don't really know how we're going to do that. But that's kind of why we're here. We have a lot of, I think we could figure out what kind of space we need. We have to figure out what you need, what we need, where can we share. Record storage is very important. Our food pantry sees hundreds of people go through weekly. It's a really popular thing. I would like to see that improve. So there's a lot that we want to have happen here. But there's a lot of players, a lot of community that can buy into this that will help us in our grant writing.
Depending on what comes out of the feasibility study, the village of Chatham can apply for some implementation money as the next step. And in that case, collectively, they'd be eligible for up to $400,000.
Is that the max?
Well, it's $200,000 per municipality. Capped out at, if there's 5 or more municipalities, it's capped out at $1 million. But with 2, it'd be $400,000. And with that program, there's a 90-10 state and local match. So the state would cover 90% of the costs up to $400,000.
So they really want us to do this. They're encouraging us.
Yeah. And on the backside, we also get some credit for the money that was used for the study. So it ends up being more than, the state ends up covering more than 90% of the eligible costs in that case.
Okay, now, when you say the state, that does not include historic preservation?
No, that's just our program.
Just your program, okay. So we could apply for grants through historic preservation?
Yes, and historic preservation is also part of the CFA as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much of anything about their program, but they are part of the CFA process as well.
What kind of things can we cover in the implementation grant?
Oh, yeah, well, under our program, it could be renovations for the building. If the town and village were to share it, renovations for the office space.
Modifications.
Sorry?
Modifications.
Yeah. What it wouldn't include would be recurring bills, like heat and electric, and things of that nature. Employee salaries for municipal officials, and that's where it would not.
Furnishings?
It could cover some furnishings for the shared offices.
Is there any sort of, I mean, as long as you've been doing this, has any towns and villages done anything like this in the area of our size that's had mixed or anything but good results from it, or even good results, really?
There's been out of last year, 2 years ago now actually, we funded Rosendale and Marbletown. That was actually 2 towns that are sharing the old school for their municipal offices. They had ADA compliance issues at both town offices, they had space issues at both town offices, and the school was vacant. So they ended up getting special legislation so that Marbletown could move into the school as well, even though it was outside of the town of Marbletown. So now that those 2 municipalities share the old school, and part of the school is also used by, particularly like the kitchen areas, is used by what's essentially their version of ARC, as well as some 2 other not-for-profits are in there as well.
So that happened 2 years ago, and it seems to be...
Yeah, it took until earlier, actually until the end of last year for that to get all the ducks in a row. But it is, it's going on there.
Did people apply for the program?
Kennerook applied for a shared sewer with the village of Valencia, and through our program, they were able to link the central square area of the village down to Valicia's treatment plant, which is behind what is now the bagel shop. It's back behind there. So they do now have a shared sewer. Previously, the village did not have any kind of municipal sewer. We did have municipal water, but private septics, which homeowner and business owner.
So is that something that we could do as well? Is there another program or another area that we could tap?
You mean for sharing services or for additional funding?
Sure.
Um,
Because you need additional capacity?
No, we have pretty good capacity right now. We've just upgraded our plant,
Oh.
and we're running at about 50% capacity. So we can still add on. Carl, the feasibility study and then the implementation, are those awarded on a sliding scale basis? Would we apply and then it's determined that our project, it's perfect for this grant, or it really does not apply so much and we'd be awarded less?
There could be a reduction in the award. We have reduced awards in the past. When we look at applications, sometimes there's been questionable dollar amounts on there for things that didn't seem to be eligible. So we've taken that out. And we've also done it for other reasons, like for a couple of years we've had a lot of good applications and we wanted to fund several more projects than what we had the money for. So we reduced some of the funding so that we could cover more projects. So we have changed the amount in the past.
How much consolidation of services do we have to be covered in this type of thing? I mean, if we just share services as just say the court system, and not all our town board offices, I mean, would that be enough, just combining the court systems together?
And if it's economically feasible, it can be covered. Court systems, it seems to be somewhat of a popular thing to consolidate because it seems to be easier to do that than say, dissolving a village or combining like highway departments or combining police departments, although we have covered a few of those as well. The court seems to be an easier one, and oftentimes it's looked at because courts are not cost effective. They don't bring in enough money and fines to cover what the costs are for a year. So that's one that is often looked at. And yeah, we can cover court consolidation as long as it.
I just wasn't sure if there was a limit to how much you could consolidate everything, or could you break it down into pieces? Like, my thinking is definitely the court system is trying to consolidate the village and town courts would be an easy thing to do. It's the building's set up for it already. There would be some things we've looked at that might be easier. When the court system's not in use, you've got a great community building for community meetings that you could have here. It wouldn't disturb to feed the food program that's going on. There's a few things that would still really work by just doing a consolidation of that. And maybe looking at consolidation, we talked about building department, maybe so we don't have a village department, village inspectors and town inspectors. Maybe
we could have town of Chatham, town of Ghent, village of Chatham, building inspector.
So, I mean, those type of things would fit in this building, rather than trying to take all the town offices and put them in here, all the village offices, because there's not, the way it's broken up, it would be difficult, and the expense would be, I think, more. That was just my thinking on it. I like the idea of doing the courts, because it seems like our judges really like this building. There's been a lot of people who want to save it for that reason, so I think it would just be a good fit to do that consolidation. I think with less money that we spent to do that.
Tom, what you brought up though, with the town of Chatham and village of Chatham and town of Ghent, I see that as having, being an area we really may need to explore in terms of, for one thing, obviously, I think the town of Chatham and the village of Chatham are probably more poised to do more sharing of services than maybe Ghent would be. But I would think that in applying for grants, that we have three municipalities involved. I'm just trying to, think a little outside the box there, whether that would, you know, as I said, it's a discussion, obviously it needs to be had with Kent.
Well, yeah, I mean, I did invite them, but it was such short notice that they couldn't make it, but we'll have continuing workshops, and I think there is something in that,
Yeah.
and that if we can combine more from different towns, that it may improve our eligibility.
And you can also include the school district. They're considered a municipalized state
Okay.
taxing ability. Especially like with maybe combining their public works or their buildings and grounds with DPW. That might be something that could be looked at.
We do have a county agreement to help each other out in the highways. And our
Shared services agreement with our,
Yeah.
DPW's county highway.
we do that, and that works. And our guys help out. Kent helps out us. Chatham helps out the village, and vice versa. But we would like to take that a little further.
Sure.
Just see.
I don't know what, let's say like the fueling facility, if the school has one, or if the village and or town has their own, that's something that you might be able to share like a fueling facility between Ghent, Chatham, and the school.
Did you say fuel?
Fueling.
Yeah, fueling facility.
Okay.
So
The
that
feasibility study actually cover? Is that feasibility of what it would be like, what we would take to combine our services? Is that pretty much what, is it would be, feasibility is going to say, they're going to come in and say whether it's practical or not to try to do.
yeah, they would look at it, like if you were to move some of the offices into this building or build an addition on this building, they would look at the costs versus what the benefits would be. And that would be one aspect of that study.
So then, really what we need to do is we need to sit down as our group and come up with what we're looking to do, even before we do a feasibility study. We have to have some answers amongst ourselves in agreement, this is the avenue, this is the direction we want to go. And before we can even go to that stage.
Well, for the feasibility study, how open-ended can it be? Does it have to be specific feasibility of doing X, or can we say, here's our laundry list of possibilities that we want to kind of rate them as far as what's most practical?
And you could have a look at this, but what you may want to do would be to say, okay, we'd like to look at the following options, but pay particular attention to a couple of them,
So there should be some key ones.
Yeah, we should be able to address some key ones that you really want to focus on.
Like the courts, for instance.
Because an open-ended feasibility study is, they're good, but only to the point. You may want to focus it a little bit more, have it somewhat open-ended, but have a focus to it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in one sense we could say, okay, we can get an architect study of what possibly in the building. We can get some kind of prioritized list from the town of things that maybe possibly would be moved here, and then, how do those two things match? But I understand you want to have at least one or two of those that you say you'd like to focus on these particularly. But otherwise, it just seems like there's many, many possibilities, but it's hard to focus on. We have a lot of unknowns.
Very much so.
Well, we're going to share assessor, if you broke out the building department. You could also possibly combine the zoning and planning. You would have two different zoning, you'd have a village overlay
escape on the building. And we don't know in what shape or form that's going to be in, but we feel that that's a real priority.
I think you're right, because of public safety and public access, really those, I think when we talked in the past about that, I think it was pretty much agreement from everybody, that's really the two big avenues, to keep the courts up and running and getting, you know, handicap accessible, the bathrooms and things like that.
And with that, there could be ideally a secure access port in the back of the building into that elevator stairwell for the courts. Secure, camera. Also, it's easy access for the food pantry. But how big that is going to be determined by our space needs and what the grant, the implementation study does for us to see what's possible, what will be funded.
Tom, have you gotten any information back from your grant writer, where we're at, where he's at?
We just applied for a history study, and I forget what else it was, but it's a $32,000 grant. It's part of a whole building assessment and steps to move forward, but Victor broke down the most important pieces.
I'd like not to see us going in different directions. I had an opportunity as Friends of Tracy member and being on the Tracy Foundation, to be able to sit in on Victor's additional meeting here. Found it to be very impressive. The village has done a very good job by hiring him. This guy's excellent. He's going to, I guess what I'm saying is, let's make sure we're not, Victor's hooking us up, and we're not going in a different direction, and we're all going in the same direction, because this guy has got it down, and I'm quite sure that Victor's looked at all these opportunities that we're talking about tonight, and he's also, when we talked about how we could do it, town, village, where we can get our best bang for our buck. You know, how we can consolidate it, you know, just talking, you know, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I think
so. You know, where he's at, I'm not sure. This is just started within the last 6 months, and working in conjunction with Jack Wade, who is a phenomenal guy. I think there's some wonderful steps that have already been taken. This is part of that. But there's things that need to be done regardless, whether it's a consolidation or not, which are being done. And I'd like to know how many municipalities, villages in the state of New York are divided in half by 2 towns.
right.
This is unique because 2/3 of this village is in the town of Ghent. I live in the town of Ghent. So I think that's a huge consideration.
It really is.
You know, and again, I want to commend you for doing this, and the town of Chatham for being here. I know the town of Ghent was offered the opportunity and short notice, and we're all busy. But that bear has to, we all have to be interested.
Yep. Yep.
At our next meeting, we invite those extra players. I mean, it seems like they've got a lot of information.
Absolutely. Yep.
It'd be great to hear from them, make sure that we are.
Well, they're going to bring something to the table that we haven't thought of.
Yeah.
Just in being involved for a while too. It's 2 separate things. We have a facility and then we have the governance. And where we focused a lot on the facility and where we felt attention needed to be given to preserve and to restore and to make accessible this building. It seems as though there's been work done that way. It seems that the government pieces need to put some work in now to sit down to see exactly where you feel you want to go. Until you understand each other's needs and wants going forward, I don't know that you could really sit down and figure out how much more space you want here or need here. So I think besides the facility piece, which is kind of moving forward, because it has to, the government pieces are the ones that really need to sit down now and do a lot of legwork to understand each other and see where it would benefit each other, to see who's, where compromises, where it can be met to benefit the taxpayers in the village and the towns. So that's just my thoughts.
And I think to that piece, the town of Getty has to be part of that conversation, governmentally speaking. Because once the governments know what they're about, that drives the space.
Yeah, that's a big piece of it, so.
Thanks.
Do you see the boards working on this combined, or do you envision a more smaller committee?
Well, I think it would be a committee, but board members could be on that. Don't you think that would be more practical? Because not all board members will be able to be available all the time, but yeah.
I think our respective boards need to discuss, find a conversation, and maybe our next meeting come up with a plan for a committee to work on it.
We also need to reach out to the community, the people who are in the village, and really hear their opinion on consolidation. That's step that, if they're in favor of what the benefits are, pros and cons, I think that's important. That's
Consolidation rides people up. So
Pardon?
the word consolidation can ride people up. No,
Yeah, it's not a consolidation of government.
it's just, it's a word that.
Yeah, and just to quell any rumors, we don't have any plans of dissolving the village. I've heard rumors, but it's like,
It's a rule.
it's a rumor. The village has such a clear identity, and it's divided between two towns. It's just impractical. And
One of the things we can do, maybe on both websites, is put a survey up and ask people to go to the survey and give us their opinions. Besides joining our open meetings.
yep, it's a good idea.
But I think
We,
for,
if the committee were, the committee that we put together came up with a dozen questions, or just left it open, give us your opinion. I think that would enable residents to have a better sense of their participation in the whole decision-making process, even if they can't hold it.
And I think that maybe if you, when you sit down and discuss this, the residents, when you say, well, we're going to combine the services or share these services, I think if you can put some type of a benefit attached to it, that it would save 10% of our taxes, or 3% or 2%, so it becomes a little more realistic for them than them just saying, oh, they're going to do that, and then the money that's left, they're going to do this, and we're not going to see anything out of it anyway. So I just, when you do sit down and look at it, that maybe if you could put a little bit of that angle to it, to present it to people, they would understand it better as to how it would benefit them, especially in the wallets.
Well, the benefits may not be short-term, but long-term.
Well, that would need to be explained to them, because those are going to be the questions right off the bat when we walk down the street. You're going to say, well, what am I going to see here? And you can say, I don't know. So it's kind of got to be thought out a little bit so it can be presented better, so it becomes palatable. Unlike when the school tried to do it, and it wasn't palatable and it didn't go forward. So I just think if you're going to do this and put all this time into it, that maybe we pay attention to what other things went bad because of that,
So I think in the school, the part of the state was saying, we worked out the whole plan, take it or leave it. At the same time, you can't just say, oh, we're thinking about sharing services, what would you like? We need something halfway between those two.
Right, right.
And I think if we're gonna keep talking shared services, we're gonna have to have a list of what shared services we're using and talking about, so there's no misinterpretation of what we're doing.
Yep.
If we're gonna do planning, boarding, zoning, boarding, building department, we need to really list those specifically, so nobody can be confused that we're going after the mayor's job or the supervisor's job.
You can have my job.
No. We'll take dog catcher. I just think that would be clear because of what happened at the town. I think it would just be a big help to do with that.
And baby steps.
Yeah. And I think the idea of taxes, everybody wants to hear that the taxes are going to get reduced from this. I think Maria's right. I don't think on the short term that's going to be the case at all. I think we're going to see a raise in taxes before we see a drop in taxes because of the amount of work that's going to take in money to facilitate what we're looking at before we start to see it coming back down. I think we're going to have to put more in right away than we're going to get back. And I think that's another thing that's got to be explained because no taxpayer wants to hear that their money they're going to go up. And then you're going to tell them, oh, it's going to go up now, but it's going to come down in 5 years. Yeah. I'd like to see who's got that globe that they can see that far in the future. So we've got to be careful, again, saying what we're going to do to their taxes without really knowing.
Right.
Well, the town hall is very comfortable. However, the town has 100 acres. When that building was purchased, it was a very good idea. There was a gravel mine. Gravel has been taken off there. It's all been reclaimed. It's quite beautiful. But I don't think a municipality of our size needs to be in the real estate investment business.
Right.
And the money is derived from that property, goes into the town coffers, which ultimately reduces taxes.
Right. Yeah, good.
That's one opinion. That's one opinion area about whether we can get rid of that land or we should get rid of that land. I mean, the village, this is a nice building here, there's a lot going on and said for it, but at the same time, this is one of the big things we don't have in any large gathering area is parking. Parking's always going to be an issue here. Where at the town site, parking could not. We could actually expand, make the parking larger. So more we could do there to handle larger crowds than we can do here in the village. So that's something else we got to give thought to is whatever we're to consolidate, what type of, how much larger are we bringing the public in? How much more people are bringing into a resource area where we don't have the place to put them? So that's something we have to think about also. I mean, it's nice to bring more people in, but where do you put them all? The building will hold it, but the streets will hold it, the parking lots will hold it.
Well, like the court is one of the busiest nights,
Yeah.
and we handle it. People end up parking up and down the street, but I don't see it being a huge issue, but it definitely needs to be taken into consideration.
And I say that because the nights that they have court, it'd be nice to know from the villages, the people on the street, how is their business affected, good or bad, by losing those parking spots to people going to court? Are they not going to the pub? Are they not going to some of the other restaurants and stores? Because there's no place for them to park.
Right.
I mean, it's great the court's making money, but some of our other businesses may not be. They actually maybe take a little bit of a loss. And I'd say that speculative. I don't know if that's the case or not, but
No,
we
but
would definitely want to check with our businesses to see just how that's being affected.
And if this building gets reworked in the back, does that take away parking or does it add parking?
Right.
It's a good consideration.
In terms of the implementation grant, could that be used toward purchasing additional parking area? If it was directly related to this?
If it was likely related to consolidation of small business, it could be.
I'm not sure where.
The 100, I'm sorry.
What kind of timing? You mentioned, I think, timing on the first round that you talked about. Was there a deadline? We should
months, give or take a little bit. So we're expecting it to be open sometime in the middle of May. So it'll probably be open through early, maybe mid-July.
So that's when the grant should be.
Yeah, that's when the grants would have to be, the grant applications would have to be submitted by, would be the close of this year.
Is that on a yearly basis?
Yes.
The question that I had, the 100 acres that the town has, that's all behind the town hall there?
And to the south.
And is that all buildable property? It's, okay.
There's no train tracks going by?
No train tracks, there's no, nothing was dumped there, it's clean, usable property that can be sold without an issue? I just don't know, that's what I'm asking.
You say it could be sold?
Yes, sold. This is what you were speaking of, that maybe the town didn't need that
I
property.
mean, would it sell within a year? I have no idea. Would it sell within 5 years? I mean, it has to do with the economy and who wants to invest.
I just wanted to know if it was property that was buildable right off the bat. Somebody had said that they felt that that was what's it called, a brownfield or something. So I don't know anything about that. I didn't even know we
I
had
hope
that
the town
property.
didn't buy any brownfields.
So I'm just asking.
Access and right of way would be another issue. Property.
What's that?
Access and stuff would be one of the issues that we come up right now, is trying to get onto that property without going through the town hall.
Okay.
The access going to the, as you're looking at the town hall to the right of it, then you're starting to get in towards where the county's property is. There's some small wetland in between, so there are some issues about trying to gain access to that property in the back.
Okay.
That would have to be addressed. But I still think it would be, I think it could be sold. I don't think it's,
Pardon?
I think it could be sold. I
Okay.
don't think it would be anything, there's nothing large enough obstacles that would stop it from being, going to the market. And we'd have to explore that too, to make sure.
Thank you.
Do we want to come up with a meeting schedule?
Tom, what happened to the request for bids for the lift?
We got a bid in, but it was late, one bid. So technically we have to put it out to bid again. We didn't look at the dollar amount.
So we're doing that? So there's another company up in Schenectady that we found a proposal from. When we were moving from downstairs to upstairs, we found this old proposal from like 1999, but it's a lift company up in Schenectady.
Good.
So I'll give you their name.
Good. Yeah, and I think, we posted in the paper, but we have to be proactive and say, hey, did you guys notice this bid in the paper? Because people don't read the local papers looking for bid for building.
Hey, we need to probably bid on bid projects.
Right.
We ran into the same thing.
Yeah, it's such an unusual thing.
It's important that you know because we need to get additional time.
Yeah.
And that grant,
Yeah.
get go back to the state.
No, and normally when we put stuff out to bid, we get bids in. And that was like, oh, people aren't bidding it. So I told Mike, he told that company.
Mayor, did you have another date you had in mind for the second meeting?
No, but we should talk about that. We want to get together again. Does anybody have an idea when we want to do this? Once a month? Or?
Well, I just think we have a board meeting on April 21st, the town board meeting.
Okay.
And I'd like to put that on the agenda so we can speak about it ourselves.
And we need to form a committee.
We need to form a committee.
Yeah.
So you're going to do that prior to, accomplish all that prior to this next meeting of this larger group?
I would say, yeah, we should
Have a committee.
have a committee formed by then, by the next meeting. Would be great. Ideally, it'd be good to have a committee. place for that.
So maybe sometime mid-May?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if we want to get any of the grants submitted, we've just got a 2-month window.
Our board meetings are the 2nd and 4th Thursdays, and yours are the
First and third.
1st and 3rd. Okay, so Thursdays are pretty well booked unless we want to have a workshop before our board meetings. What about Wednesdays?
Wednesday's okay. How about Wednesday the 11th?
That's not good for me. County directors meeting.
Not good for me either.
Tuesdays?
Wednesday altogether is not good? No, just that particular one. I mean, how
How's
about
the 25th?
May 18th? May 18th? Wednesday, May 18th. That works for me.
Tom, are you looking for a committee meeting time or a full meeting time?
Well, this is our next meeting, and we should form a committee before then.
I think our respective boards should decide.
We can
you know,
canvass
who we
our
want to
boards
put
and
on the
then see
committee.
who wants to be on it. And then we can form the committee members at this meeting, and then we can acknowledge them at a board meeting.
Does it make sense to have ahead of time, each committee discuss what it considers it might want to consolidate around, so it comes with
Yeah,
as a goal, to
I-
come to the
absolutely.
meeting with that or
With this
accomplish-
list, this
with a
list,
list,
this-
come to the
this-
meeting with a list.
yeah.
So is Wednesday, May 18 at 7 good? Yeah.
That works for me. And should we meet here?
You want to meet here?
7 o'clock, Wednesday, May 18th.
It seems like the town has a harder task to begin with. It's simplifying tremendously, but it's like the village has this nice building. We'd like to share the use of the building more. We'd like to make the building, we'd like to improve it and make it more productive. The town has a much more complicated thing of, would you like to move things? What do you want to do with your existing property? I mean, again, I'm simplifying tremendously because some things have nothing to do with the building. But it seems like in a certain, again, simplified sense, it's like the village can say, hey, you've got this nice building, and you guys want to think about doing something with it? And it kind of gets thrown to you of where do you want to start?
We're very comfortable.
Okay, well, I'm sorry to cut it close, or cut it off, but we do have a board meeting at 7. But you can continue to talk among yourselves.
Thank you, so we're not hosting this.
Well, thank you for coming up. I'm glad to see there's an interest in it. And, see where it goes. Certainly, if you want to talk to me or whatever, pick up the phone and we'll have coffee or whatever.